All right, for this explainer, we are diving into a communication technology that, according to our source materials, seems to operate completely outside the normal rules of physics. This is the story of what's been called the Unbreakable Tether.
So let's just start with a problem that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction. Picture this. How in the world do you talk to a drone that's screaming along at Mach 5, miles deep under the ocean, and is wrapped in a bubble of superheated plasma? This is what our source material calls the blackout problem, and it's a massive hurdle for any kind of advanced aerospace or naval mission. So let's break down exactly why all of our conventional technology just hits a complete brick wall here. Okay, so everything we rely on, radio signals, GPS, even your Wi-Fi at home, it's all just electromagnetic waves, right? They're the backbone of how we communicate. But they have two huge Achilles heels. Turns out both deep salt water and superheated plasma act like perfect shields. They either block or scatter these signals completely. So for our drone, it's in a total communications blackout zone. So if you can't blast a signal through these physical barriers, what's the next move? Well, the solution laid out in our source material is pretty radical. You just stop trying. To solve the blackout problem, you have to abandon radio entirely. And this is where things get really interesting. This brings us to the core of this alleged technology, a solution that taps into one of the weirdest, most counterintuitive principles in all of physics. We're leaving the world of radio waves behind and entering the quantum realm. You know, the great Albert Einstein himself had a name for this. He famously called it spooky action at a distance. And frankly, he was skeptical because it seemed to break the universe's ultimate speed limit, the speed of light. And yet, it's a real, proven phenomenon. So what is quantum entanglement? Well, it's a principle where two particles become fundamentally linked. They start acting like a single system, even if they're on opposite sides of the galaxy. If you do something to one, the other one instantly mirrors it. There's no travel time, no delay, it's instantaneous. Now, I know that sounds like it bends your brain a little, so our source material uses a great analogy to make it clearer. Just forget about photons and physics for a minute. Let's just imagine we have two magic twin coins that are quantumly entangled. Okay, here's how it would actually work. First, you entangle two photons, creating our magic twins. Then you separate them. You put one in a command center, say a supercomputer in Virginia, and you put its twin inside that drone at the bottom of the ocean. And here's the incredible part. When you change the spin of the photon in Virginia, its twin inside the drone instantly changes to match it. You've just sent information, a 1 or a 0, with absolutely zero time delay, and you did it by completely bypassing the ocean and the plasma. Now, this whole setup creates more than just an instant communication channel, which is already wild. According to the source, it's also physically impossible to hack. And we're not talking about clever software encryption here, we're talking about using the fundamental laws of physics as the ultimate digital padlock. The key to this unhackable security is something called the observer effect. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like a soap bubble rule. A quantum state is so incredibly fragile that the very act of trying to measure it, to see what it is, fundamentally changes it. You can't touch it without popping the bubble. So how does that stop a hacker? Well, imagine someone tries to intercept this stream of entangled photons. The second they look at them to read the data, pop, the bubble bursts. The quantum state collapses, the entanglement is broken, and the data just scrambles itself into complete useless noise. But even better, the sender and the receiver know immediately that their line has been compromised because that unbreakable link just broke. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds like pure science fiction. Well, the source material argues that it's not. It points to what it calls a forensic audit of actual documents from the U.S. Patent Office, suggesting there's a very clear paper trail for this exact technology. The allegation here is that this cosmic radio wasn't just invented in some secret lab overnight. Nope, it was supposedly built piece by piece over decades through patents filed by major defense contractors, all hidden in plain sight. And this slide really lays out that alleged timeline. It starts all the way back in 1994 with an IBM patent for the basic method of quantum cryptography. Then you jump to 2008, and Boeing gets a patent for airborne quantum relays, basically a way to send these signals from a satellite or a drone. And then the final piece of the puzzle, according to the source, falls into place in 2016, a patent for a tiny chip-based photon source, small enough to actually fit inside a drone. So, when you put all of these patented pieces together, the core theory, the airborne relay system, and the miniaturized hardware, what do you actually get? Well, according to the source, you get a technology that completely redefines communication.
The final system, as it's described, has three truly revolutionary features. First, zero latency. The information arrives instantly, effectively breaking the light speed barrier. Second, it's unhackable. The security isn't code, it's guaranteed by the laws of physics. And finally, it's transmedium. It just doesn't care about physical barriers. Deep ocean, superheated plasma, it bypasses them all.
So, the ultimate takeaway here is pretty mind-bending. We're talking about a communication system that is basically a radio that doesn't use radio waves. It's a silent, unbreakable tether woven from the very fabric of the universe, connecting two points with an invisible, instantaneous thread. And that leaves us with one last, really provocative question to think about. According to the source material we've gone through, this technology already exists. So the question is, if a communication system that can bypass the physical world is real, what other technologies that we're constantly being told are impossible might already be a reality?